Welcome everybody once again to my weekly installment, Oberon's Outlook on the Emotional Exchanges, which is a weekly tarot forecast specifically intended for our emotional ups and downs, our emotional situations, etc. For the next week, that week being starting today, Friday, which is June 12th through next Thursday, June 18th. So I hope you'll get something out of this. Go ahead and like and share, etc. And of course, Oberon Osiris is my priestly name, so that's why I showed that card. Anyways, we work through the elemental associations of the Zodiac, so we work through the signs in those clusters. So you may want to look at your sun sign. You may want to also look at your moon or rising sign too. Those may have relevance for you. So we're starting off with our air signs today. A little bit of glare there. Let's see if I can turn that. There's my little cloud. Air signs. Air signs are, of course, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. And they tend to be our little bit more thought-driven kind of signs. So we give everybody a word of the week. So for air signs, that word of the week is solitude. And I'm just thinking that, you know, with all of the emotional energies going on this last several weeks, months, time has no meaning here. But maybe it's time for us to apply some sense of solitude, to be alone with ourselves, but not to be doing nothing. Maybe it's about thinking kind of stuff. So keep that in mind for this next week, you air signs. I hope that word of the week will help you. So now we're going to go to your reading. And as you can see, I use a lot of Egyptian thematic kind of stuff. I'm very drawn to the Egyptian ray or spectrum, as you wish to call that. It tends to be that I am basically just a Wiccan who, in addition to other, deities, I'm very drawn to the Egyptian one. Hence the Osiris in the beginning. It's kind of like an additional resonance for me. So anyways, here we are for our air signs. And your reading goes like thus. You have the Six of Discs upright. Wow, this is coming up in a lot of readings. You have Temperance. Let's get that glare off of there. And Temperance is reversed. And you have the Two of Discs, which is also upright. So, air signs, the Six of Discs tells me that you may have to extend some generosity. This could be that because with that Temperance reversed, I'm thinking that maybe somehow a part of your conscience or situations have brought you to that point now where you realize you have to be a little bit more generous. Now, it could just be the old-fashioned, monetary generosity, but I'm thinking that it's maybe an overall generosity, and that maybe if air signs have been kind of trying to weather the debates going on with more of their intellectual, objectivity, maybe that time is changing for them, and that maybe they're starting to realize or just to consider. I'm not trying to paint them into any one picture, but maybe they're reconsidering where they stand in the situation, and that maybe now they may not be as objective, i.e. they may actually make a move or at least solidify, clarify their thoughts about this. And so I see that also because of the Temperance reverse, but then we have the Two of Discs, the Two of Pentacles, and I'm thinking that maybe putting a spin on all of that, it's also related to our attitudes about our own self-governance, how we're dealing with our own problems, emotional and monetary, and that maybe the whole idea is there's a synergy between those cards, and the thing is that we have to form partnerships. A lot of times twos can be about partnerships or unions between, corollary or contrasting forces. maybe this is all talking really about air signs. They're taking time off with solitude, but maybe what they're thinking about is improving all of that and thinking about the partnerships they can create and the allocation of resources in a more moderate way than maybe in the immoderate way that's been going on. So I'm thinking that's going to be kind of like the focus of your week in certain ways. This could apply to you very personally, as well as maybe just out there in general for a lot of things going on. I mean, this could apply to your work situation or your romantic or emotional life too, that you have to consider what you give, what you receive, and how you are moderate of that, appreciative of that. So that's what I have for the air signs. And now we're going to move on to the fire signs. Fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. And they tend to be very dynamic, not necessarily a shy person, outspoken. They can be generous, they can be selfish, but they're really their own thing, and it's usually pretty bright. So their word of the week is domesticity. And what do I think domesticity means for bright and brave and eager and energetic fire signs? Well, I'm thinking mostly it's just saying maybe we're going to hold back a little bit. Maybe we're going to apply a lot of that energy and sense of ourself to the self we have within our domicile. And maybe now is the time for some of the fire signs to be considering how to make their home more domestic for them. And this could be, of course, physical changes. You know, like maybe now's time to work with some changes with the plumbing or the electricity or put in a new room fan somewhere or something like that. But more likely, I'm thinking this maybe is really about drawing to us and maybe in that more peaceful domestic way. So maybe I'm thinking fire signs are going to look at the roost that they're in charge of or that they're a part of, and they're going to be working to bring peace to the home too, to bring a domesticity to that life. Even if you're just one person living alone, there may be a lot for you to consider and think about bringing peace into your life. Maybe it's time to do some meditation or Zen. If you're in a family or group situation, then maybe it's about, extending that kind of serenity to those you care most about. So keep that in mind, you fire signs. And now I'm going to go ahead with our reading. Remember, tarot cards are just a snapshot in time, and technically they're just here to give voice, clarification to your feelings, your own intuitions perhaps. We're not allowed to give legal or medical advice. You should seek the appropriate persons for that. But we do enjoy you. Check out our YouTube channel. We have live streams twice a week, as well as a bit of other content. So let's get on with the fire signs then. And we have for them the Nine of Wands, upright. We have a King of Swords, and he's reversed. Ooh, big thing. We have Major Arcana 13, Death. It's reversed. So I'm looking at these and I'm thinking, this next week, I think that's why we have the domesticity sign here, because we will really need to pull back in our households, in our group or family or friend arrangements. The Nine of Wands speaks to preparedness. You are looking at some outcomes coming towards you, and you are looking at yourself as being prepared, but possibly still working on more preparedness. It may be that there is some change going on. I'm thinking it possibly correlates more to your work life. I'm not exactly sure what the King is telling me, but it does look like there is maybe a change or a delay. So if somebody was expecting to go back to work, if somebody was expecting things to change for their better, promotions, new responsibilities, moving to another office, things like that, those things may be delayed. And mostly what the reasons would seem to be is that there's a bit of stagnation in the air with our death reversed here. So I'm thinking you mostly need to have that emotionality to deal with maybe some not so great news in various situations. Like I said, I sort of feel with wands and swords, it's maybe pertaining more to your business professional side. It could be about your other aspects of your life too, of course. There's so much that can be stagnating right now, if we had to be honest. But I'm just thinking that this is really the time with domesticity as your word of the week to just really hang tight a little bit. Don't make anything really drastic happen. Be prepared. Be aware of where struggles are coming from and what they might possibly be. But death reverse tells me that this is something that just is going to possibly take some time to pass, that there's a bit of stagnation here. You may not be that person that can bring the energy to make those wheels move a little more. You might be. I don't know. It could differ from person to person. Mostly I'm seeing a cue to kind of hang in place and, weather the storm there. So that's what I have for the fire signs, and I thank you for that. So we're going to move on now to the water signs. Water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. And they tend to be the truly emotional ones of the signs. All things considered, if there's some other aspects in their chart, they may not be quite as weepy as a Scorpio like me can tend to be. But we have a word of the week for the water signs. And that word of the week is cooperation. Cooperation can mean a lot of other things for people, but I'm thinking it mostly means we work with people. That's really what it comes down to. Anyways, I've digressed enough. I've cut the cards and I'm ready for the reading for the water signs. And water signs, we have the Ten of Swords there. That's upright. Me and the Banshee kind of differ sometimes on how we see that Ten of Swords. We also have the Six of Cups upright. And then finally, we have a Two of Swords. And remember when I said earlier about the twos sort of representing couples or aspects of duality or partnership. So what does this mean? Well, to me, the Ten of Swords really looks kind of dire in most situations. It looks like Banshee likes to put a little bit of a lighter edge. And trust me, that's important because we're of the mind that we don't want to mince feelings with certain cards. If a card really means something bad, you should say it. But some cards that maybe only appear that way, people get overly dramatic about. And yes, I'm talking about you, Death card. The Death card is really about change and transformation, so it's not about physical death. Anyways, the Ten of Swords, though, does seem dire. It seems like some really directed and or contrary forces coming to you, with the caveat that this is really the totality of what they can, and that from that conclusion of that, there may be some rays of hope you can see. Banshee likes to point out that somebody is holding a torch to light the way, a glimmer of light. Now with the Six of Cups, that's upright. I'm thinking what I see here too is that this idea of something contrary coming to you is probably rooted in things that you're holding on to from the past. There are things that are mostly joyful things. They're not bad things. It's a good nostalgia. It's a good sentimentality. But I'm having the feeling that some of that is possibly putting a window for the bad things to happen. Maybe you're kind of not totally finished with somebody who's really bad in the past and who did a serious bad thing to you or tried to cause you harm. So you may want to consider that. I'm thinking that's possibly coming to you. I'm also seeing with the Two of Swords that this represents a decision for you, because maybe this person has always been there but has been kind of relegated to a lesser position in your life. They're your, like a third cousin who married into the family, and you really only see them every 5 or 6 or 7 years. But maybe this person has something that's integral at this point, considering all the crises going on. I'm thinking this is coming to you, water signs. I'm not sure why, and I'm thinking that's why we got the cooperation card, because I'm thinking that despite our feelings of the possible harm or negativity that we have had in the past, it is possible we may have to negotiate a new cooperation. And once again, I do sort of get the feeling this possibly relates to family, or it relates to deeper in the past. So watch for that, guys. Watch for that. You emotional Pisces, Scorpio, and Cancers. So we're going to move on from that, and we're going to finish up now by moving to our Earth signs. And the Earth signs, they are Taurus, Virgo, and forgetting there for a minute, Capricorn. How can I forget that? That's 2 of my other aspects. But those are your typical, reliable, solid. Things don't rock them very easily. So from that emotional point of view, they may not reveal things steadily. You know, they may just sort of like hold on to that and then play that information or that feeling for the time is right. I know they say it about Scorpios too, but I'm living proof that that is not always true. At any rate, for you guys, this is kind of a cool card. It's regeneration. So I'm thinking, Earth signs, you are looking at the ways to regenerate many things that are going on in this next week. This week from June 12th to June 18th again. Some of that I think is related to the fact that there's so much broken down right now, and maybe as much of our nation is trying to figure out how to safely reapproach all of their situations. Earth signs maybe, are working a little bit stronger with those concepts of safety and regeneration. And or maybe they have responsibilities or issues towards them in their life or in connection with others. So I think that that could be possible too. So now we are going to do your reading. And our first card is the reversed Princess of Swords. Our second card is the 8 of Cups, which is also reversed. And then finally we have the Empress, which is upright. So this next week, we definitely need to watch for the cooperative thing, because we are navigating a situation where maybe either within ourselves or with someone very close to us, I get the feeling like they're about to make a big change. They may be moving on from you, they may be moving career-wise. They're making a big change in their lives, and I don't believe it's you. It could be, but I think what you're there for is that you're possibly trying to impact on that. And I'm thinking that you might want to back off, that maybe what the Princess of Swords tells me is that although well-intentioned, your efforts may not be really what's called for at this time. It might be that it's clumsy, or it's just not appropriate. It's not skillful enough to really help this person, or if it is in fact yourself, navigate this big change that I see coming. The change is probably really reflective of a shift in where you're going in terms of possibly a job, but I'm also thinking it's a big orientation. Like you might be grappling with something about a major change. An example would be that maybe somebody has decided they need to divorce somebody. Maybe somebody has decided that they need to press charges against somebody for something. Maybe somebody really needs to get out of a dead-end job that they've been staying with due to some loyalty and move to something that's been right there waiting for them. It represents real shifts to me in a way, and I'm just thinking that the person who is represented by the Princess of Swords, which most likely is yourselves, Earth signs, you're not really going to be helpful here for some reason. It's the regeneration. Boy, I'm such a goofball. With regeneration, I think you are being called to assist them better than you may be able to. You may have to really tap into something quite different. It might be within yourself. It may not be. It's the Empress. It could just be, too, that maybe the whole idea represents to me that there's something starting here that really doesn't have it together in the beginning, that there's just something not quite skillfully being taken care of here. But with the Empress's energies, it's just going to pull out somehow. And it maybe is really that moment of realization that you really do have to be your best. You really have to be productive. You really have to bring something into being. And it's not what maybe you thought it was with the Eight of Cups. Maybe it's really something different. So I think that's what I have for you guys. And I hope that was helpful. Remember to tune into our live streams twice a week, and also next week for my next installment here. It's been great reading for you, so we hope to see you again.